The New York Times says it is taking the Trump administration back to court for what it calls unconstitutional new restrictions on journalists covering the U.S. military. The Defense Department announced it will immediately close the media offices inside the Pentagon that reporters have used for decades and move them to a so-called annex that will, quote, be available when ready. It's another refusal from this administration to accept defeat after a federal judge ruled in favor of 7 New York Times reporters who lost their Pentagon credentials because they wouldn't agree to new rules. So extreme that even reporters from conservative outlets walked too. Joining us at the table, President of Media Matters for America, Angela Corazon. Sam Stein is still with me. Are you surprised that they are so dug in on this?
Not that they're dug in at all. I mean, this is what they do. And I think I would have been more surprised if after they lost, they didn't try to find some workaround, some sort of clever workaround, because ultimately what we're really seeing here is a battle of attrition. They're trying to radically transform the not just the news media, but the confines of the First Amendment. You have to fight for it if you're going to defend it. There's no way around that, and that's what this shows us. But that they are going to counterpunch each time, and you just have to be girded to sort of grind through this. Otherwise, they will inevitably win through attrition.
It's part of a broader pattern we've seen from this administration.
No. Yes.
I mean, in two ways, but in two ways here. One, the undermining of journalists, and two, the complete ignorance of the rule of law.
Yeah, I mean, look, in like a normal administration, this never would have happened. But also, had it happened, they would have just said, okay, fine, we'll just comply with the order. Who cares, right? Like, ask us tough questions. And in fact, what they should recognize is that there's real virtue to having an adversarial press there.
Yes.
It holds you to account, puts you on your feet. The journalists are going to get the information regardless. Just having them there doesn't prevent them from getting that. But this is an administration that sort of lives in an adversarial posture. They define themselves by who they are knocking or who their enemies are. And so for them, there's no value in acquiescing to a court order. It's just finding another way to make life miserable for reporters. I will just say this, and I never want to tire saying this, but heading into this administration, there's this big conventional wisdom among a lot of the tech bros and people in certain parts of the commentariat that this was an administration that really, truly appreciated the First Amendment, that they were gung-ho about protecting the rights of reporters and journalists and free speakers and free thinkers. And it is obviously BS. It has been proven to be wrong. And I think those people should live in shame for the idea, which was a fallacy to begin with, that this would be some sort of beacon of First Amendment rights.
A beacon of First Amendment rights. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. There's a large part of the people that sort of glommed onto MAGA. This was one of their core tenets, not just no new wars and getting into foreign entanglements, but this idea that somehow Democrats and the rest of the culture had gotten so stifling for them that you didn't have free speech anymore. And that the only way to get free speech back was to bring Trump into office. And obviously this has been proven to be entirely true. And I think the real problem there, the so what, is exactly what Sam said. They don't live in shame. They don't feel shame. They should. They should be atoning for that on a regular basis and being an active part of the solution and the bulwark against this assault on the First Amendment.
That was a hat tip. That one was but you've seen the reporting that I've seen, that they actually, inside the Pentagon, had a moment where they realized the errors of their ways, when all of a sudden they realized that no one who was seated in their press corps had access to broadcast capabilities. And all of a sudden they have to call a camera out so they can have a gaggle, because they realize that if you want to message to the American people, you do in fact need some members of a fair and free press there in order to do
and it's not just the institutional structures like, the hardware and stuff to broadcast. But frankly, if you want your message to be believed, if you want your message to be understood and, respected, you do need to make sure that the channels through which it's disseminated are trusted by more than just your slice of the MAGA universe. And, I don't think necessarily that Pete Hegseth cares. Frankly, he doesn't care, obviously. But there is some value to having that type of relationship with people who aren't just your, subscribers, the people who believe you already. You do need to reach different audiences. And if you look at any of these polling numbers, it's clear that they are not reaching different audiences.